The final lens then is structure. How do we put all this together in a way that is accessible, familiar, comfortable, safe, but also that harmonises with our rich liturgical tradition? We're not trying to do mini masses, but we are trying to do something that follows the shape and form of Mass, because Mass, the gift of liturgy, is what informs all of our practice. It's why then we use the 4-part structure: gathering, the word, response, mission. And this is where, with your young people and as part of our process, we take all those wonderful things we've thought about, inspired by the season and the scripture, in our language of the senses, to then shape and put together an experience. Now, there's certain things that go in certain places, absolutely, but don't think that everything has to go in the same place every time. So let's start with our prayers. We'll always have our sorry prayers. If they're prayers for forgiveness, we'll always have them towards the start of our liturgy, same way in Mass. If they're asking prayers, they'll be towards the middle, and if they're thanksgiving prayers, they'll be towards the end. Similarly, our scripture always needs to come in super early, because everything is referencing, or should be referencing and leading back to and drawing from, that scripture. So if you've not heard it, well, then how can it be inspiring and shaping everything? So the scripture's got to come super early on. It's why, if you look at the way in which we plan, you'll notice the gathering and the mission are quite small parts. The gathering's purpose is simply to bring people together, set the tone, make everyone sure why they're there, and then to get to that scripture, so the scripture can then inspire and lead that celebration of the word. The response, though, well, that needs to be a response to what it is we have heard. It might be the scripture suggests that our response should be silent and prayerful. It might be that our scripture suggests that our response should be active and joyful. But whatever it is, we need to continue to allow the season and the scripture to shape where we put those different ingredients, to make sure that it all sticks together in the right way, and also creates an experience which becomes familiar and comfortable. Like, look, prayer and liturgy is not something everybody does. In our schools, there'll be people for whom this might be something quite new and quite alien, and so that structure is actually a way of creating security and familiarity. It's a great thing in terms of engaging those people with additional needs, or those people with different faith perspectives, because it helps them understand what's coming next. Now, this doesn't mean making everything the same, but it does mean following this process and this structure in the same way, so that it becomes something that becomes normal and natural and safe and accessible to all. When it comes to our structure, then our gathering is often when we'll have an opening prayer, a collect maybe an opening song, but really, like I said, the focus is to get onto the word. We always deliver the word out loud read. We never replace it with a drama or replace it with a video. It's always read, always proclaimed. That's what is the tradition of our faith, and that's always the way it should be. After we've heard the scripture, though, how we unpack that then is when we bring in those other elements. Maybe it's time for an action. Maybe it's time for silent prayer. Maybe it's time in that moment for us to sing a song or to reflect upon what it is we've just heard. It might be that actually after our scripture, we take the time just to think and just to allow ourselves to listen again in a Lectio Divina style. But again, this is all shaped by what that scripture is and what season you are in. That response will take us through the main body of the celebration of the word. So we might have action that leads into prayer, or prayer that leads into action. We might have times of silence and quiet. We might have times of discussion. We might have times of movement and procession. But they all start moving towards the final section, which is the missionary element. Liturgy and life should be reflections of each other. They're not separate bits. We don't go over there to pray and then come back and get on with the rest of our lives. What we bring to those moments of celebrations of the world, those moments of prayer, is our lives, is us. Everything we're experiencing, what's on our hearts, what's on our minds, what's happening for us right now in our community, they're the things we bring to God and share with God and each other in those moments of prayer. And then that beautiful encounter we have in that prayer is then what we should take out into the world and then use to inspire us and to shape our lives going forward. So thinking about what your mission is going to be and how you're going to send people out to be changed, to be different, and to put into practice what it is you've celebrated is vitally important, even if it is just one short bit. You've got to make sure your mission is practicable, tangible, and doable. There's no point saying your mission is to go away and be nice. I mean, yeah, that's great, but actually, how about your mission is to find one person today who you really appreciate and to tell them just how much you love them. Now that's something they can do. That's something you know when you've done it. And it's also something that can then form part of the ongoing cycle of liturgy and life. It's something that the next morning you can start your day by saying, right, who went and spoke to someone last night and told them that they were important to them? How did it make you feel? How did it make them feel? Giving a concrete mission helps us then to look at and to see the impact of liturgy in our lives, and it helps the cycle continue again. Because that life we then live, we then bring back in our next celebration of the Word. Each part of the process informing each other. That structure leading us through a traditional form of prayer, inspired in a creative, accessible, engaging way through the inspiration of Scripture and season, expressed through the language of the senses, which then brings us back to celebrate all over again. We then flip onto our structure and we try and put them in order, but I kind of think we're getting in order, aren't we? So we're going to start with the sign of the cross, absolutely, and then we're going to have what kind of prayers? The sorry prayers. But during our sorry prayers, we're going to pick up our stones. That's fantastic. And then we're going to... Pardon? So you're absolutely right. In our gathering then, we need to talk about what our theme is on courage and make our table and our focus table. And we've got to light the candle, of course. You guys are too good at this. So all of those things go into our gathering, don't they? Setting the scene, creating the space, introducing the theme, and those sorry prayers. Absolutely. Then we go straight into our scripture, okay? So am I reading our scripture for us? Fantastic, thank you very much, appreciate that. Okay, so you're going to read our scripture for us. Who's going to write that explanation? We said, didn't we, we're going to write... Would you work together on that? Is that okay? So if you two work together on writing the explanation that pulls in all those different bits of scripture and different places we can find courage in the Bible, love that, okay? That's going to take us into those what-if questions, and that was your idea. Would you mind doing our what-if questions? Okay, so after we've had our explanation, we could do a bit of time to reflect, what if you felt like this? And maybe, could we link it then to, what if you've got something you're scared about? Because we've still got our stones, haven't we, in our hand from our sorry prayers. And we're going to put them in the box, aren't we? So would you mind explaining that and doing that bit with the stone? Rewind, though. We need some sorry prayers. Can we have some people to write our sorry prayers? Would you two mind writing our sorry prayers? Top banana. And would you mind explaining as well that during your sorry prayers, pick up a stone. It's going to remind us that that's the thing we're saying sorry for. Right, so we've got kind of halfway through. We've picked up our stone. We've welcomed everybody. We've done our sign of the cross and read our scripture. We've then got our reflection-y bit, which is great. Then what's next? We put the pebble in the box, don't we? Okay, marvellous. So, who'd like to explain that bit? Would you two do that together? So you're going to explain putting the scripture in the box and why we're doing it. Fantastic. And we'll do that whilst singing that song. What was the song, remember you said? The Lion of Judah. Yeah. So we'll sing that song during then. Would you mind introducing that song for us as well? That's fantastic. We write all this down so we don't lose all this. And then, last but no means least, our mission. Who's going to do our mission? Because our mission is going to take with you. You guys mind picking up with the mission again? Yeah, fantastic. So you guys pick up with our mission. That's great. And then you're going to tell them to take those rocks out. This is going to be amazing. I cannot wait. It's going to be so cool. And I love the way the rock theme and the theme from the scripture work all the way through it. That's brilliant. Right, let's grab some pens and paper. Let's get cracking. It's these moments. It's this structure, it's this process which underpins everything we do, gifted to us in the liturgy of the Mass, but expressed in this process and in this way, in a way that everybody can understand, that everyone can access, and that everyone can enjoy. All of the good, in fact, all of the best practice is actually essential to some of our young people and staff, particularly those with SEND, those with additional needs. But while it is essential for some, it's actually beneficial to all. Everything we do should be geared about helping every single person meet Christ. It's not about putting up barriers or leaving people out. Every single thing we do is about bringing people to Christ. And we plan in this way, by using those lenses and understanding why we do things at certain times and how we do things in certain ways. When we do it like this, it works for everybody. It becomes a profound expression of love and a meaningful experience which is open and that actually matters to every single person. It's so exciting to think about what we are going to create, and particularly what our young people are going to create going forward. And I sincerely hope that this process, this technique, which I know many of us have used in many different ways, maybe we're revisiting again, or maybe we're meeting for the first time, I sincerely hope that this process, season, scripture, senses, structure, help us to create a model of planning and facilitation which builds confidence, which creates real agency and ownership, and creates those profound moments of encounter for all.